welcome to the Hack for an F award presentation. Today is the wrapping up of our event. I'm very, very excited. We had a flood of projects coming in. Very exciting to see all of this new ideas. And today we're gonna announce the winners. Of course, it's been the culmination of 6 intense weeks plus, a lot of time for preparation, but we'll really thank you for your participations and your contribution to this event, which we think is going to be very successful. So let me move my slides. And so the webinar is going to be recorded and will be available on ctup.org for those of you who want to share and still send it to friends or watch it later. And we have a live captioner available. So if you click on the CC button on your Zoom bar, you will have access to captions. The agenda for today is very simple and straightforward. We'll have, first of all, a panel discussion moderated by Dennis Ford. Dennis is a friend of the foundation's founder and CEO of Life Science Nation and creator of the RESI, Redefining Early Stage Investments Conference Series. The panel is going to include judges, mentors, patients, and participants. And we hope we'll learn about how the event went, why we are incentivizing data sharing, and what is the use of data and how we can advance the field, if we are doing it right or trying to learn for the next year. And then we'll go straight into awards presentations. Thanks to the generosity of our sponsors, we were able actually to include a new grand prize. So we have an extra prize included in the grants list. So the list is 3 winning teams. They will be awarded $7,500. And then we have another 4 grand prizes, one of $75,000 and the other 3 of $5,000. And then we'll award also a hypothesis testing prize. And also we'll invite teams to join the NF incubator, even though they didn't win a prize because of their promises in their projects. And we think it's going to be awarded when continuing. So next, I would like to introduce Annette Bakker, president of the Children's Tumor Foundation, to convey a message and give us her impression as well about the event. Annette.
Thank you so much. First of all, as you all know, at CTF, we have many dreams, but the 2 I wanted to focus on today is we've really been obsessed over the last couple of years to connect the unconnected and make sure that we get as many people engaged into this field. Those were kind of our 2 dreams. And why? Because we have this absolutely amazing NF community who deserve treatments as quickly as possible. They need options now. So today I really feel like we are realizing one of our dreams is not only to connect the unconnected, but also to expand the field. And Salvo, if you can show that one slide that will show us why I am so extremely excited today to show you, look at where the participants are coming from. We got about 480 people that registered. There is 400 active projects from 5 continents. Today we have 7 winners, 9 projects that will receive some kind of incubation award to be able to continue their project. So I think there is a reason to be excited that in the midst of this pandemic, we were still able to pull this off. This didn't come by itself. This is because of the hard work of our staff, Salvo and Barb. They have been working tirelessly to make this happen. This, of course, would also not be possible without our co-founders that I really would like to thank today, NTAP and the Gilbert Family Foundation. These project selections, and let's say the best of the best that we will hear from today, would not be possible without the hard work of our judges, mentors, patients, participants, And then last but not least, I really want to throw out a little thanks to my dear friend Dennis, who has agreed, who is always in for a little crazy idea and who loves innovation over all these years, and who accepted to be the moderator of a pretty amazing panel that I'm not going to disclose the secret yet. I let Salvo and Dennis take that off, but thank you, thank you, thank you. And for those that have participated, stay with us. This community deserves smart people to solve a problem that our patients need to get solved as quickly as possible. So thank you.
Thank you, Annette. It's amazing. So let's move on. Thank you so much. As you said before, I'd like to introduce our sponsors, especially our presenting sponsors, Cellforce and GraphPad. Thank you for your support. Without you and all of the other sponsors and data partners that we have, we couldn't really pull this event off. So the other big component was community partners, all of those community for coders, but also open science and community of hackers that helped and registered to the event, making it very successful and very, very strong. So thank you all. And of course, as you said, Annette, our list of mentors and patient mentors, we had more than 40 people all together. You can see the names. I'm not going to read them all, but it's an incredible lineup of talent and professionalism. So thank you for the time you dedicated to talk to the patients, talk to the projects and making sure that they hit the nail about doing something useful for research, but also for our community, and the organizers and the judges as well. And a special thank to the Be My App team, Lucas and Zach, that helped us over the, let's say, 10 plus weeks with preparations to pull the event off and give us amazing support for this event. Thank you so much, guys. So without further ado, I would love to introduce our panel discussion. And you see here on screen, these are all people that were involved with the event. And they are judges, we have mentors, and we have patients, and we have also participants. We want to learn from you what has been your experience, how we can move forward in the future, and learn how to do these events even better for our community. And the moderator is going to be Dennis Ford. I introduced him before. Dennis, welcome, and thank you so much for moderating this amazing group of people.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate being here today, and I thank Annette and Salvo and Barbara for doing such a great job in putting all these folks together. You know, it's really amazing to put a hackathon together across 6 weeks and find 600 people that we could coalesce around such a great cause, and to go across 5 continents with 23 teams. I mean, that's just really amazing. So congratulations to the CTF team for doing like a really great job. And the thing that to me is really interested about foundations is that, we all know the foundations kind of gather around a particular disease, and then they go out and find KOLs and they get data and they really, set up this fabulous infrastructure that can, take other types of technology and research and move the needle for a disease and improve the research. And so, to put that together and to make these strides that we're making from all over the world as a common group of people revolving around one disease is really fabulous. And it's really all about, collaboration. And it's that collaboration that we really need today on many levels, but it's great to be here and to be part of it and really, try and expand this whole research community around CTF and NF in particular. At this point in time, I'd like to start off with just doing, we've got 7 participants. So everybody better tune in and try and get speak fast and try and get everybody their fair share of time. But I'd like to go around the panel, and we can start with Jay Shri, if that's okay. Just doing a quick introduction on who you are and what you do, and we'll buzz around the panel, and then I'll come back with some questions.
Thank you. A pleasure to be here. It's exciting to see all of this work happening. I'm a clinician. I run the NF Center at Hopkins, and I take care of patients with NF1, NF2, and schwannomatosis. And I run an organization called NTAP, the Neurofibromatosis Therapeutic Acceleration Program, focused on plexiform and cutaneous neurofibromas.
Thank you very much, Jay Shri. And how about you, Kavita?
Good to see everyone. I'm Kavita Sarin. I'm an associate professor of dermatology at Stanford, and I direct the Skin Cancer Genetics Clinic. My research is mostly focused on the genetic and molecular basis of a variety of skin diseases.
Great. Thank you very much, Dao Chan.
Hi, everyone. My name is Dao Chen. I'm actually a research associate at the Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer Center, and I'm focused on research, mouse model, human PDX model, on the plexiform neurofibroma and the malignant peripheral nerve sheath tumor.
Thank you, Gustavo.
Hi, everybody. I am the chair of the Exploratory Life Sciences program at IBM Research, and was a judge in the NF Hackathon. And one of the reasons why I think I was chosen to be a judge is because I have led a crowdsourcing effort called the Dream Challenges, which has been running for several years and has many similarities to the aims that the Hack for NF has had.
Christian.
Yes, hi. I am really thankful and happy to be here today. I'm a solutions architect for Insightful Science. We develop software like GraphPad, Genius, SnapGene, and I was really happy to participate as a judge for the first time within this community, and really excited about today and some of the great things we have to talk about.
Thank you very much. And Josh?
Yeah, my name is Josh Meyer. I'm a software architect at Salesforce, focusing primarily on our infrastructure. And the reason I was a mentor during this process, and the reason that it was close to me and important to me is that both my wife and daughter have NF1, and my daughter actually just started the Koselugo treatment. So the timing of that becoming available was incredibly fortuitous for us. So.
Thank you very much, Josh. Bev? Do we have Bev out there?
Sorry, yeah. Bev Oberland. I'm the middle generation of a multi-generational NF1 family. So I've been involved with this for over 35 years. My dad died of NF. My brother died of complications of NF. I have NF. I have a niece with NF, and my son has NF. So I've pretty much seen NF1 from every perspective that you want to see it. Patient, parent, family member, and friend. And I'm basically a patient advocate. I've been advocating for research, talk to professionals, talk to NF, advocate for the funding. And to me, it's amazing how far we have come for the last 35 years, from 2 sentences in a medical book to being a mentor for projects in this hackathon. So this is very exciting for me. So that's where I come from.
Wow, well, thank you very much, Bev. So, you know, the community here that's just in this panel is so diverse and really interesting. Jay Shri, I'd like to ask you a question. From the projects that are submitted in the hackathon, did you see anything interesting, anything that caught your eye, or do you have any, general observations you'd like to share with the community here?
Yeah, thank you. So first of all, basically everything was interesting. The question is, what has the legs to go the distance in the manner in which it was submitted? So I just want to reiterate what Salvo and Annette said, that if you were involved in this in any way, stay involved. There are really interesting ideas that can be further developed. And as you've already seen, this is a community that's committed to growing people in the field. So there's never a no, there's a not right now. So that's part one. Part two is, I think the applications that I reviewed really fell down 2 pathways. And one was really about engaging directly with people who are living the NF experience and how we can better track that experience, how that information can be shared more efficiently with their care teams. And so that kind of personalized medicine approach from the patient's perspective, which I think is reflecting what a huge need there is for that. And both the professional care providers and patients will attest to how needed that is. And the second was applying various technologies to existing data sets, which is so exciting because one, we have existing data sets that didn't exist 5 years ago. So we need more. It's exciting to see that growing, but it's really exciting to see people newly coming to the field to access that data.
Jayshree, how would you describe what a hackathon is to the general audience? Like, is this brand new? How do you view it as someone who's in the middle of the research, and then you look at this new entity, a hackathon? How would you describe it? Or
yeah, I think I'm the worst person to ask that question. I don't know that I know what a hackathon is. So what I think it is a bunch of smart people coming together, bringing their perspective to problem solving. And I used to think it was, generating code for a specific, to come up with the answer. And now I've revised my thinking to think that it's really anybody who is curious and thinks that their most powerful tool is their brain, and all they have to do is listen to the people who are living with a problem and come up with a solution.
I really appreciate that, because when I think of a hackathon, I'm saying, okay, get a lot of people that can use the data and see if we can point them in a direction to get something interesting. But then when you really look at all the different types of patient-oriented things that are out there, if you have a disease that's serious, having intelligent agents and software applications and monitoring and new next generation drugs and next generation therapies, et cetera, can be really exciting. So I like that. Maybe we should redefine hackathon to let's get a bunch of smart people and point them in the right direction. So I guess going with the theme of smart people, we've got a principal software architect from Salesforce.com. And Josh, I'd like to hear a little bit about your perspective of how you see this in the, Jayshree just mentioned kind of data going one way. So how does a software architect look at a hackathon?
Yeah, so I think it's actually really interesting the way this question has flowed, because when when Barbara first reached out to me about helping with the hackathon, I was like, what in the world is a medical research company looking at not looking at doing a hackathon for? I was really confused. Because my vision of hackathon is, the stereotypical everyone sitting in a room with pizza and Mountain Dew until 3 a.m, right? Trying to put together something that actually functions. I said, what is going on? So I talked to him, I was like, this is genius. Like this a concept of bridging different disciplines together in a way that we've never seen before, like bringing the medical field and the science field and the technical field together to actually make use of this data that we've been sitting on for years, in some cases decades, with never being able to use it. And we're seeing more and more of this in the industry, for better or worse, the ridiculously accurate targeting you get in Facebook ads, right? What Google is actually finally able to do with the data. Google spent over a decade basically learning everything that it could possibly learn about you, but it didn't know how to use it until within the last few years with the advent of the big data analysis and the AI and machine learning. And it's the same thing we've had in the medical field. That we've been gathering these whole body MRI scans, and we have just piles and piles of data, but we had no idea what to do with it. And I think this open data initiative that CTF is running, coupled with this new approach to hackathons, where it's not just technical, you can get any collection, as you said, of smart people in a room and come out with something really awesome on the other side, is just, I think it's going to be a game changer in the hackathon space, and in all of the medical community as a whole. I think it's going to be really amazing.
So that's great. I really appreciate your insights. So I'd like to hear a little bit from Christian regarding, where the researchers, the architects, the the patients, the family members. How about the sponsors? Can you tell us a little bit about, why you became a sponsor, what your relationship is, and how some observations regarding this hackathon?
Yeah, thank you. It's a good question, and there's a lot I could talk about, so I'm going to try to reduce it down a bit. So my company, Insightful Science, we really try to develop software tools that don't get in the way of the experts. Okay, so we really want to empower experts. We want them to focus on creativity, focus on the problem, and not have to worry about software tools so much. So our goal is to get the software to disappear so that they can focus on what needs to be focused on. So I think I'm really lucky and really thankful that I get to see and help scientists flesh out ideas as they're chasing after innovation, which is really difficult. That said, I was really blown away by the thoughtfulness, the ingenuity, the creativity that I found throughout the hackathon. And it wasn't just the hackathon participants. It was the judges, it was the mentors, it was the organizers, it was everybody. It was just pervasive. So what really stood out to me was the community of patients, academia, industry, caregivers. All of those have a part to play. They all have orbits to play around NF. And I really liked how everything just kind of coalesced together. So I think it's a perfect mix, honestly. Go ahead.
I know. So you've got me a little bit curious with get the software tools in the background. So does that mean just seamless, intuitive kind of enabling, or?
Yeah, that's always the goal. And everybody, I'm sure, has had to work with a piece of software that was cumbersome, that got in the way. They're griping, they're complaining, they have emotional responses to not being able to do something they think they should be able to do. And we really want to kind of answer those fundamental things because they do, they get in the way. So, but part of the issue with software is you have so many different types of people who want to come in and use this one tool. And so how do you design for everybody, right? That's hard. Google spends a lot of money doing that. Apple does, right? Everybody does. So software by its nature is multidisciplinary. This community, I think, multidisciplinary as well. I mean, you see the panel, you see all of the participants, there's people from all over the place. So one of my key takeaways is that this multidisciplinary approach is essential for process and discovery. You have to have it. It really highlighted the importance of collaborating. Software does that behind the scenes as I'm in developer meetings and user interface meetings, user experience meetings. There are a lot of conversations that have to happen in order for something to work well. So it's the emergent properties of the group that matter. And I believe that's where real innovation is going to be found. So I really wanted to thank everybody here to allow me to be involved. It was a huge honor to be a part of this community. And if there's a spot next year, please let me know. I would love to be involved. I would love to participate. So I'm just going to throw my name in the hat.
Thank you very much. Bev, could you give us some insight from the patient perspective? Is there anything you saw in these 23 projects that caught your eye or caught your interest? And could you elaborate on that, please?
Yeah, there were actually several of the projects that caught my eye, and most of those that really caught my eye were the ones that makes things easier for the patients, that helps the patients gather their data and keep it all together. There were a lot of them. One of them was like the NF Matrix project that works for the total population of researchers, patients, clinicians, and gathers all the information together and keeps that together. And there was others that helps gather information for doctors, because there's a lot of NF patients that don't live near any NF clinic. So they can't get to the NF clinic. So if there's an NF clinic, it's a 6-month wait to get in to see a specialist. And the further out you get, they don't have, their doctors don't know much about NF. So anything that can help the doctors who aren't familiar with NF and patients who don't have access to a specialist to help those, the regular doctors, their internists, their oncologists or whatever, get access to the NF information. So things that will pull that together is really, really, really important. And things that can help patients, there are several that help patients gather their information. Like I know a lot about NF simply because of my experience, and I go to an NF clinic, but I still have doctors that don't know a lot about NF. And I've had instances where I've been lucky with my doctors where they contacted my NF doctors when I had cancer or whatever. My oncologists and my surgeons talked to my NF doctors at my NF clinic. But there's ways, there was a lot of projects that were helping to coordinate that information. And that's something patients really, really need. So there were several projects that were helping patients to gather the information and track their information, because it's really overwhelming for a lot of patients. Things like, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. So things that will keep that information accessible for patients that they can share with their doctors. So it's not quite so frightening for them.
Yeah, those are those are really fabulous points. And, you know, you're basically saying the patient has all the data that everybody needs. And then the question is, how do you get that data? And then, you know, is it monitoring? Is it just, you know, putting the data out there? So do you have any particular projects or any ideas about how to improve it? Or did you see anything that would move the needle for you?
Things that make it easier. There was a couple, there was like the NF Care application was particularly interesting because they had like calendars. There's a few of them that had calendars where you put on your appointments, you put on your medications, and then if they can, there was a way that if they could share that information with their doctors. I mean, I bring lists of my medications when I go, but if there's a project that could keep it all in one spot for the patient, and I think the Care application did that. I think that was one of the better ones that did that, and the Knowledge Explorer that also tracked all that information, because then they could just share that application. They could give that application to their internists. So the internists, you have to get the doctors willing to use that, to take the time to look it up. And I think that's something that no matter how good the application is, if your doctor who's not an NF specialist isn't willing to do it, then the best application in the world isn't going to make a difference.
Yeah.
But if
Yeah, no, that's great stuff. So you're basically saying, you know, collaboration is the key, but what direction is the collaboration coming from? Is it coming from up above you with the doctors and the caregivers, or can you get the information to them so that they can do a better job? And then how do you centralize that? And then how do you coordinate that through your network? I mean, it's a big challenge, but you're seeing that we're inching over there.
We're working toward now. The Knowledge Explorer was an application that did that. The NF Matrix was an application that did that. The best one was my NF application and the NF Care application, because those both had places where apps that allowed the patient to write down, keep track of their own information, so they could share it with the doctor. Now, if there's a way to connect that to share it with their own doctors, or at least it gave the patient a sense of control over what they were doing. Because I think that sense of control is very important. Yeah, because
knowledge is power.
For that, see, the patient themselves. See, everybody here seems to be like the patient mentors, wanting to be in control. But I know people, and I've seen that in my own family. My family is very involved. My parents started the Illinois chapter 35 years ago of NF. Okay, but my brother didn't want to know about it. And I've seen a lot of people, if I don't think about it and I don't know about it, then nothing bad is going to happen. And they hide their head in the sand, because if I look up about it and I know about it, I'm only going to be frightened. So I'd rather not know. Right. And I don't know how you reach those kinds of patients.
Well, the challenges are out there, but I really think you have the right idea that, you know, the data got to come from the patients. We've got to centralize it so then it can be distributed through the network of collaborators, and we're starting to inch towards that. So I guess I can go to Gustavo right now, and maybe we could talk a little bit about what your observations were, and then kind of what we're talking about here with Bev, which is like, we're going to get the data from the patients, but we need a central repository. Then we need to be able to munge the data such that we can get some value from it. And how do you see that going in your world?
Yes, very interesting questions. First of all, I want to thank the organizers, Salvo and Barbara and Ned and all of you guys for having done a terrific job in this in pioneering a way of crowdsourcing that is really unique in the sense that integrates and fusions different ways. We have seen in the computational biology area, challenges in which everybody had to solve the same problem, and the X Prize tries to do long haul challenges in which people have to solve, far off kind of SpaceX kind of opportunities. But this is kind of a fusion of leveraging innovation by crowdsourcing, by putting in a small time, a lot of creativity to solve problems that matter to the community that it's intended for. So I think it's a very interesting way and format that you guys created. It's not a hackathon in the conventional sense that you want to solve a problem very fast, very intensely in 2 days. This is a little bit more time, but allows people to develop creative juices. And coming to the data that you were asking, Dennis, I think the data sets were incredibly powerful in the sense that the variety of it and the well-organized nature of it that allow people to go, not waste time in trying to format or debug it and so on. It's directly usable for concrete applications. And then the data sets were, from drug screening to genomics data, imaging data, SNP data, genetics data, whatever you have that you can think of, it was there. And it was great that people had different ways to attack them and guided by the mentors in a way that made it relevant to the endpoint rather than what we like to do in the academic world, which is publishing papers, sometimes going in the tangent that are not really solving the problems that people need to be solved, but rather solving the problems to publish. And then in this case, I think it was remarkable how the role of the mentors was listened to by the performers. I think we got somewhere, as we will see when the winners are announced.
That's, great. Leveraging innovation through outsourcing, putting a hackathon like this together. The key is that, the CTF group has taken years upon years of really figuring out how do we get this data together? How do we organize it? How do we structure it so that now the community can get at it and they can do their magic? So I love that. Kavita, could you give me some insight into what you were seeing in the hackathon and some follow the bouncing ball here?
Yeah, I think I definitely I have to echo a lot of things that Josh mentioned, Jayshree and Annette mentioned about the interdisciplinary nature of it just being a very exciting way to bring people together from areas around the country, multiple fields to really make innovation in the area of NF. I want to bring the second approach that I noticed as a mentor was some of the diversity of approaches to solving the problem. So some people were coming in with, I'm going to try to understand what the needs are and meet the needs. And I think that was a great approach, but I also saw very different approaches is I'm going to come from the background I have. So I have built software applications in this area before and see if this application or this background application I have can meet a need in NF1. And I actually think that both of those are in NF. And I think both of those are really unique approaches. And I think that combination of like multiple approaches, I enjoyed calls with people from various countries, bringing in just really unique backgrounds, was able to really, I would say, foster the innovation that we saw in this hackathon. And I think that was one of the most fun parts.
So what do you see going forward? Do you see trying to extend this to a year, like, once a quarter for a year, or how do you see this going forward to be, something that's really compelling?
Yeah, I mean, when I compare this to, so last year last year I think it was live in like a shorter period of time versus this Zoom. I actually think this time frame is a very good time frame. Everyone can debate. I think long-term timeframes become a development project, right? And that's the incubator and the roles for those. But short-term, short defined times that are enough time to really be able to get a proof of principle or concept out, get your pilot model out, I think are kind of the best environments for hackathons. And this period of time in this environment where you could go global and have people work together from multiple countries, I think was just amazing. I mean, I think revolutionary in terms of how I think that people in the room model, now moving people in the world model now are bringing into a Zoom room or a virtual room, I think is just a great model moving forward. But I do think that still that condensed time frame of under 3 months is really fosters that innovation in hackathons, that whereas longer term projects are longer term projects. Like that's when the development cycles and iteration.
No, I love that. And that's really, it's really kind of when you're putting these things together, it's an interdisciplinary team. They're from all over the world. They're coming from, software architects to researchers to patients to family. So how do you really, start to categorize some of the things that you can do in a short period of time to move the needle? Dao Chen, could you speak a little bit from the research perspective? You're the guy that's in the trenches, and tell us what you saw.
Yeah, first thing I want to thank all the sponsors and organizers, and this is really a good opportunity for me to even I'm a frontline researcher, I never realized, as Jeffrey mentioned, so many data is available and so many resources there. And now it's given me a kind of a chance to get involved and also collaborate with all the people and chat with people on the Slack, and share all the ideas, because before I didn't know that many people with expertise really interested in this. I just think I'm an island in the lab, and now this event just connected people internationally. I mean, the whole community and get involved. A lot of people keep share their resource and ideas on Slack. So I definitely learn a lot from them. And again, I mean, also I want to mention, I mean, as a participant, I think my project is on drug discovery. I think the data quality is very good. I mean, that is why I like to analyze data. I think the drug screen data is very good. But as also, I mean, data scientist kind of, I want to complain the N number is always small, right? I mean, I always want big N numbers so I can get more statistics power, more confidence to make the conclusion. But anyway, I think this is also a challenge too. Just make this events more interesting, because because all the resource is always be limited, and how to try to achieve or try to approach the ideal aim and based on all the resource you have. That's also a great part of this challenge too. And also as a participant, I think one small thing I think I want to suggest is try to release the data probably at early stage. I know this on these events, all this data, drug screen data, a couple other data is released gradually. And for me, I mean, personally, I spend probably the first 10 days trying to understand the structure, organize this data, and then get everything, the framework, and then get distracted, by other things. And then in the last 5 days, I start to come back again and wrap up everything in a rush. And in between, I realized some new data released, but I just cannot really, come back, have enough time to come back to integrate with my proposal, with what I'm previous work. So I just leave all those things in the kind of future plan.
Tell me, Dao-Chen, how could CTF get more researchers like yourself involved in the hackathon?
Yeah, this is a great question. I even asked Sova, because the hackathon there is a hackathon last year too. I didn't realize this, and this year I'm so lucky. I think this is the international one, and I know this, and I mean, I think CTF did a great job to broadcast these events. and then people from the world start to join. I think this is a very great start. I mean, I'm pretty sure next year, people will, more and more people will know this and more interested in this.
So collaboration creates connection, and connection will get us more participants, and hopefully they can use the data and move the needle. I think we're kind of moving towards the end of our panel, so I'd like to thank you
Dennis,
all.
may I add something?
Yes, please.
To Daochen's point, the only way that there will be data available for such hackathons is scientists contributing such data. And very early, CTF and NTAP and Gilbert Family Foundation adopted the requirement that data be uploaded. NTAP followed CTF's lead on this, and we have very strict requirements in our funding for this, but you don't have to follow those strict requirements. You can just share your data because you want to share your data, and expands the field. And so I just want to share that used to be taboo, that people would say, there's no way I'm sharing my data. But especially with pre-publications and the positivity of how BioRx is being met by our most premier journals, there's really no downside. In fact, there's an upside. If you preprint and share your data early, you will have more collaborations. You've laid claim to your discovery before it's getting a paper through Nature or Cell does not happen in a short period of time. But if you've pre-printed that, you have your timestamp of your discovery while you're waiting for your year of reviews and revisions. And so I just want to say to all the scientists listening, the way we will have more data is scientists are contributing more data.
Absolutely, yeah, I absolutely agree with that. I talked with some, people in the Synapse, and I think the Synapse did a very great job to integrate all this data together. And they said F1 is a rare disease, right? And researchers the data is relatively rare compared to the breast cancer and those liver cancers. So they need a community to collaborate together, and as early as possible, as more as possible, to concentrate all the data and powers, try to penetrate the challenge. I definitely think this is a very great idea, and all the communities need to reinforce that.
Yeah, and then we go into the gene sequencing and all of the other types of things that need data. So Kavita, I guess you could wrap up if you got 30 seconds.
Yeah, I think genetic data, along with all sorts of molecular RNA sequencing data, if that's made public, along with outcome data and phenotypic data, there is so much, and Daocheng, I'm sure, can attest to this, there is so much that our academic researchers, engineers could do. Data analytics, it's amazing what can be done if we have large data sets that are well annotated. So agree with everything everyone said.
Salvo, where are we? How are we doing?
Oh, we're doing beautifully. I'm really enjoying the conversation. Thank you.
How much time do we have?
I think you still have another, I would say, 5 to 10 minutes shy.
Okay.
So yeah, please.
So Daocheng, just to follow up, can you fast forward 5 years and tell me what you'd like to see?
5 years for me?
Yeah.
My personally, as for the whole community. For me, I'm still a current postdoc, but will be a PI in the Medical College of Wisconsin, and there they have very good kind of NF clinic too. Again, as a PI, I talked with Sova. Sova said we should contribute, to the data sharing. I said, so far, I absolutely agree. So, if I become a PI, I would like to share my data, and let people all analyze it, and collaborate on it. And that will be great. And also from this hackathon, I know some people have special, techniques, web page design, those kind of software and architecture, and also those kind of app designs. I think once I have some idea, even I cannot do it, but I said I can find my friends, from this hackathon, and that's really amazing, That's really branch out all the possibilities. And I'm really eager to establish my own lab and embrace this NF community and try to contribute more.
So now all we have to do is get some money and fund a lab. I love that idea.
Absolutely. This again. I really feel the passion to help the NF patients. I saw a lot of videos from CTF I feel that their pain. I think they're really suffering those kind of things. I really want to help them. Try my best. Integrate all the resources I have.
So I have another question for Josh and Christian, if we could both answer. Josh, if you could start. So software architect data, tell me where we're going with this. What would you see in 5 years if we could get this straight?
Yeah, so one of the things,
crystal ball now.
Yeah. So I think one of the interesting challenges with data is it's twofold. It's gathering the data, right? But I think we all understand how that works as far as in the industry goes. Now, sharing it's important, but we can collect it. But how do you process it? How do you work through that huge amount of data, and how do you approach that data analysis and that machine learning in a way that it doesn't require a PhD in order for you to get through that process? And so I think more and more what we're going to see is the commoditization of machine learning. And so right now we're at I would say an inflection point. Right now, the biggest challenge in any machine learning process is cleansing the data. And it's the most painful and time consuming and boring task that you can really think of. But if you don't do it, your analysis on the data is going to be flawed. It's going to be wrong. Worst case scenario, it's going to be incorrect, or best case scenario is incorrect. Worst case scenario, it leads you in the wrong path completely. And so I think as we go through and try to develop these new systems for doing machine learning and doing large scale data analysis, 5 years from now, my hope is that we've actually spent enough time to make the data cleansing portion of it also like automated and through a machine learning algorithm that actually help you clean and get your data ready before it actually gets fed into the actual machine learning space. And I know Salesforce is spending a ton of time, and there's my token call out to the company, a ton of time trying to turn basically machine learning into a product. And how do you very easily through large pieces of data just click and say, I want this amount of data, this type of thing, and I want you to go and develop insights on it. I think that's where we're going to be 5 years from now.
Yeah, and so we see all sorts of really interesting AI applications that are taking all of the data inputs and outputs that you have in your everyday life and assembling them together and filtering them, et cetera. So crazy stuff in the future. But the big thing that I heard you say is, let's get some data that doesn't require a PhD and enter Christian with your software tools.
Yeah, exactly. Two, I guess, main threads that I really drive on are you've got to make your software extensible so that other people can build on it. You need to use transparency, so peer-reviewed tools that are not proprietary in a black box, so that, and when I say tools, I mean things like algorithms, methods for analyzing data. If you can have both of those, that really empowers a community, that really helps the community grow and gives it some freedom. Whereas if you've got something proprietary that, a proprietary method that you don't want to, release out there, you want to keep it in for yourself, it's really hard to tell the scientific community what you did to the data. And that's a big deal. That's a really big deal. So if you can make something extensible, make a set of tools transparent, and then to Josh's point, if you can step on the learning curve, so you can reduce the barrier of entry so that an NF researcher doesn't have a background in algorithm development. And that's completely fine, and we shouldn't expect that. If they do, that's awesome, that's a bonus, but we should presume they don't. And that should be okay. Like, all of that heavy lifting is on the burden of the software developers, the designers, to kind of assume that, so that researchers can, in a more facile way, work with the data.
So are you doing any AI machine learning based tools?
Yes, I'm actually, I'm working on a project right now. We're in early days for incorporating machine learning in the biotech space. I can't say a lot about it because it's quite new, but it is something that we will be aggressively chasing next year. Right now, we're in the early days of just scoping out what is this going to look like. So we're creating our battle plan.
Fabulous. So Bev, do you want to give us a little summary here of what you're hearing and what you're taking away and what you want to see going forward?
I've not really know much about the machine learning and that, but yeah, and algorithms, that's a little above me. My background was in marketing and advertising, so my husband's the software engineer. He would know all that stuff you're talking about.
Okay.
But yeah, but I know basically we're trying to come up with more apps to both better understand the genetics and machine learning to put together the genetics and drug discoveries and that, and using computers to do that. What I really like is bringing in more data analysis and more people from outside the basic NF research community. The researchers, the doctors, the clinicians. And one of the things I like about that is I think it brings in a fresh perspective, because it could be people from like the data analysis and the quote unquote hacker community and the data sets, because they could pick up something that we haven't seen before. Those of us really closely involved might have more of like a narrow focus because we keep seeing the same things and this is what we've thought of. But an outside view could pick up something that we haven't thought of or see something we haven't thought. And I really like that fresh perspective of it, because outside eyes, it's outside of the box. And I like bringing in more of the patient perspective. I'd like to see patients on almost every project, even if it's a data set or data analysis, because the data people could be looking at something and they're just seeing the data, but the patient perspective, and even researchers have seen that, because I'm sitting on some of the RAINS committees, and you're looking at one thing, but the learned experience and the lived experience really makes a difference, because that's things that necessarily you don't see from a narrow point of view. So I'm saying that, but I really like the fact that you're all looking at something that's going to help the patient with day-to-day living. Not necessarily a cure, but right now just making our lives a little bit easier. And that's like something to focus on.
I think that's fabulous. And it's, so timely, but the world that we live in today, it's like, if we have patients with disease, let's get them involved in our research and our collaboration and everything that we're learning. And I think one of the great things about the Children Tumor Foundation and the people who run it is that they really get that. And
yes, yeah, and it's being done.
That it's not just the researchers, it's not just the architects.
It's being done more and more and more. I mean, I see all the different groups doing it. I mean, RAINS is doing that, and I've sat on the DoD panels, and they've been doing. Back in 2008, they've been doing that since the beginning. So that's being done more and more, and I think that's really important too. And all the NF groups are doing that. And I think that's really, really important, because that makes the difference. Even going to Washington, I do, every year I go for advocate for the funding. And it's the patients' stories that really, I present, oh, look, this is what we've done for the research, and this is what we've done, the research has done. And I've been going to Washington and asking for the funding for 12 years or whatever for the DoD funding. Right. And so I know, and they say, you know what, yeah, oh, it's good that you're doing this and that, but it's really your personal stories that make the difference. So it's really important that you do that. And it's important to bring in the patient perspective. I agree, and you do a great job with that.
Well, thank you very much. I'd like to thank all of the participants. Sal, you told me we had, a couple of minutes? Are we at our limit?
Yes, you are at your limit. Thank you so much. I enjoyed so much, the whole panel, and Bev, your perspective. That's where I agree. The entire NF community is not just CTF, but everything that we are looking around is really cohesive and collaborative, and wants to incrementally add their own perspective and little piece to the puzzle. So we are all piece, and we need to use our brain to work together. And I think we've gone a lot way along, many different concepts like data sharing. I know NIH is moving towards implementing a data sharing policy that is going to kick in 2023. So it's giving researchers and the community 2 years to, get their things right. And we are already, our community is already doing it. I mean, we're already, asking for data sharing and this concept of organizing data, metadata, and putting it together so that we can use machine to work with it. It's already in our, in our card. So I'm glad we are working and moving in the right direction. So thank you all for your perspective. That was really, really nice. So I'm gonna, Dennis, I'm gonna share my screen and continue from where we left. We had this wonderful panel, and we are gonna move straight into the project presentation. So as I was saying before, we're gonna have 7 teams that will receive a cash prize. Then we're gonna have an hypothesis testing prize and team invited to the incubation. So I'm gonna explain how this is gonna work. So we're gonna introduce every team with one slide, and we'll have a presenting sponsor or collaborator that will read and comment on why this team was selected. And then what we're asking you that are watching this webinar, if you are one of the teams that is gonna be winning, please drop a message in the chat, and we have Danny that will trying to monitor the chat so that you can be unmuted and allowed to, you can actually have some comments or, some whatever you want to share with us. So the first winning team that is going to be awarded $7,500 award is presented by GraphPad, and I think Christian, you are in charge of announcing who the winner is.
Yes, yeah, thank you, Salvo. So the first of the top 3 prizes is a late entry into the hackathon. And the team that is in this slot really presented a strong project. All the judges loved it for its creativity, for its really engaging design, but also practically for its functionality. And so I'd like to announce Avi, a virtual pet for children with NF. Avi is designed to help children familiarize themselves with their NF symptoms. It helps them record in a fun way, in a very interactive way over time. And the use of natural language processing, or NLP, it's entering and classifying the data, which really lowers the data entry, the burden for data entry on the patients. So making it easier to collect and to store those data. The platform is really going to help patients keep track of their health, to facilitate the collection of all of the aggregated data that can be used in research. So if it's possible, I'd like to have one of the Avi team members say a few words on behalf of the project and the team.
I don't know if we have anyone. I'm not, I can't look at my chat, but please, Danny or Simon, if you see anyone, can let me know and we can unmute them.
Yep, looks like we have Anju B on. Anju, we're gonna unmute you and promote you. Analyst, 1 second.
I unmuted. He can talk.
Okay, great. I see it.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Go ahead, please.
Hi. So I wasn't expecting this, so I didn't have much prepared. But yeah, so we are a group of data scientists and software engineer and a designer, and we were mainly focusing on, we talked with a lot of mentors, and main thing that we got out of was, like, one thing that really inspired us was how their care for the children and for sort of the future. And we were focusing on, okay, what can we do that can actually help us to easily collect collect a lot of data, instead of going through every questionnaire and trying to answer and get that longitudinal data from children, while we are providing some platform where children can feel a little bit more engaged and openly expressing what they're experiencing. So that was our main focus, and thank you so much for this opportunity. It was a great learning opportunity for us, and we're so very thrilled.
Yeah, thank you so much. And we definitely hope that you will keep working on this project and make best use of the incubator and the expertise that you have at your disposal for NF. And hopefully this will be a product that we can release for the community. Thank you so much.
Absolutely, thank you so much.
Okay, and we move forward to team number 2. This time the award is presented by Salesforce. I know we have Josh ready to introduce our second winning team.
Yes, thank you. So I'm going to give it away, I think, a little bit by this, but I'm gonna hold out the name as long as I can. While this project had been partially developed by the team to use for various rare diseases prior to the hackathon, they did their research and gathered feedback from the community on how to customize the platform specifically for NF. It was the only patients app in the competition that addresses privacy and compliance concerns and is close to becoming a final product that patients can use in the near future. That, I think, is a side note, was super, super important, because one of my biggest concerns I heard or I expressed during the mentorship process is that all of these data gathering apps that wanted to share data with the doctors and everything else, super, super important, super awesome. Also really hard to do because of all of the compliance and the regulatory controls, not just in the US, but worldwide. So building in that thought process from the beginning was super important for this project. I'd like to introduce NF Matrix as the second winning option here. The platform integrates the needs of our patients, providers, and researchers. The architecture is flexible to use across different devices. And we really do hope that this $7,500 prize will allow the team to continue working to develop a tool to actually bring it to market, because I believe this product is amazing. So if we could have somebody from the NF Matrix team, Jason, perfect. If we can get Jason unmuted to say a few words.
Okay, Jason, you should be able to talk now.
Jason, you need to unmute yourself. So we've unmuted Jason, but Jason, hopefully you're able to unmute yourself.
Maybe we can move on and see if Jason is able to comment or share a few words later. What should we do?
Yeah, unless Jason, you're able to tell us something in chat. I guess you're right. Maybe we should move on, and maybe Jason can come back if his audio works.
Okay, so let's move on. And while Jason hopefully will solve his audio problem, we'll move to the third winning team. And this time the winning team and the award is presented by the Gilbert Family Foundation. And we have Yori Keene, Director of Scientific Program at the Gilbert Family Foundation. Yori.
Thank you, Salvo, and thank you to the Children's Tumor Foundation team for putting on this fantastic event. It was so invigorating to see all the exciting projects being presented a couple of weeks ago. And I'm sure the selection process of writing these top 3 process is not easy. So last but not least, wanted to present the third grand prize winner here today. which is titled Self-Updating Causal Models to Accelerate Discovery in NF. And leveraging the EMMA platform developed by the Indra Lab, this team, led by Dr. John Bachman from the Harvard Medical School, created 2 causal networks, the NF network and the human curated RAS network. The judges were most impressed with the self-updating feature, as well as the ability to manually annotate and highlight new changes. If used and monitored by the research community, this tool could help keep track of new assumptions and changes in real time, and allow for community validation around new hypotheses and generating constructive discussion around those. So at this time, I'd like to call out Dr. John Bachman from Harvard to say a few words as our team receives this award.
Hi there, can you hear me?
Hi, John, yes.
Hi, wow, guys, I'm really excited about this. So this hackathon submission is something we put together that's a result of several years of work by myself and a team at the Harvard Medical School, including my colleague, Dr. Benjamin Giori, who was also on the call. I was inspired to apply some of these tools that we've been developing that have been mostly funded by DARPA over the last few years, sort of in the AI for science space. And my brother also has NF, and he has benefited from a causal LUGO. And I know that there's just the challenges involved in understanding the mechanisms of these drugs and why some drugs work and some don't. And it seemed like this could be a community where our tools could actually have a real impact. So it's really exciting that to get this recognition, and I am really looking forward to working closer with this community to sort of see how we can put these tools to work. Thanks so much.
Thank you, John. Thank you so much. And Simon, do we have Jason available, or should we keep going?
He's on here.
Jason, you're available to talk, so you should be able to talk.
Can you hear me?
Yes, Jason, go ahead.
Awesome. Sorry, technical difficulties. We are a team of software developers and excited. We happened to find the NF Hackathon, didn't know it existed, and it was our pleasure to participate. Rare disease in general is a passion of ours to help how we can. We feel very passionate about it, and it was an awesome experience up front, getting to talk to all the mentors and really understand NF and all the complexities that it has. Each rare disease has different ones, and we were very fortunate to understand that up front and then apply all the things that we've done to date against some of those things that we heard, and we definitely appreciate CTF and everything that you guys have done to pull this off. I echo the sentiments of the panelists earlier, because this is an awesome community. You guys have done an awesome job of getting collaboration across the board, and we're just happy with the projects that we got to see the other day in the reviews. We're just excited that you chose to select us, and are happy to continue this journey, and are excited to see what we can do more in the NF community. In this weird age of COVID, my whole team is actually with me in the room. So you guys have anything you want to say? They're shaking their heads no, but we definitely appreciate you guys. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Jason. Thank you, the whole NF Matrix team. Thank you for participating. Okay, so we'll move on to the second wave of grant prize. These prizes were given to those projects that presented a 3 to 6 months plan on how to build on the current project that they submitted. And they were particularly selected for, first of all, what they achieved, but also the potential of moving forward and expand their results with a little bit more time. And we have this award presented by the NTAP, and we have Jeshri to introduce the winner.
So I'm very excited to present this award to this team, which had a really exciting and innovative idea applying a technology that many people have in their home right now, particularly if they have teenagers or men, frankly, not to spread any generalizations. But this award is applying the video game technology and algorithms that create 3D imaging and processing often used in video games, which for anybody who hasn't been on a video game lately, it is remarkable, the accuracy of the graphics. And so this innovative idea is meeting a truly unmet need in assessing change in cutaneous neurofibromas over time. For those who are less familiar with NF1, cutaneous neurofibromas are the #1 manifestation shared across people with NF1. There's a lot of variability in what people with NF1 might experience, but cutaneous neurofibromas is pretty much a guarantee for almost everybody. And we are limited in developing therapies for these tumors because we don't have a great way to image them. So I really want to congratulate the team from Viometrics, also happens to be an NF family. No surprise, applying ingenuity and grit to solving an unmet need. The next step is to develop this. Their idea is great, and now we have to see how it works against real cutaneous neurofibromas. So congratulations.
And do we have Patrick or Lauren? I'm not 100% sure. Waiting confirmation from.
Can you hear us?
Yes. Hi there.
Hi. Thank you. This is amazing. We're really excited about it. It was really a fun project to do. And actually, since the hackathon has ended, we've been trying to reach out and talk to different people, and how can this continue, and what more do we need to know, just kind of trying to figure out how do we even take it from here. So this is just really exciting for us as well.
Thank you so much, Lauren and Patrick. Thank you for your contribution.
Thank you. Thank you for having the hackathon too. And this is just really exciting.
Yes, and looking forward to the next development. If you did this in 6 weeks, I can't imagine what you can do in a year or so. So we're really good on our toes. So yes, thank you so much. Yeah, we need people like you. Thank you. So let's move forward and announce the second grand prize for 5K is going to be co-presented by Gilbert and the Children's Tumor Foundation, and we have Yori again. That will speak for both organizations and introduce the second winner for the grants.
Yes, so thank you on behalf of both the Children's Tumor Foundation and the Gilbert Family Foundation. I'm very excited to present the second incubation award to, once again, AVI, which again, as described earlier, this is going to be a very valuable tool at engaging the young NF population at the children's stage, with their very clever design and their use of natural language processing to make it easy to capture symptoms and the experiences of children as they progress through their NF journey. We'll be collecting data, and might very well be helpful for research purposes. So again, congratulations to this team. And Unju, I don't know if you wanted to say a few words again. I'm sorry to call you out. I know you weren't expecting this, but congratulations. Please feel free to say a few words.
Oh wow. I am speechless. Thank you so much for this another award. We're very thrilled to continuously work on it, and we're excited that we have a platform now that we can actually finish and hopefully make this into a real app that can actually help the children with NF. And yeah, thank you so much.
You're welcome, and you have all our support for everything you may need. So the prize is one thing, but then the entire community that will support you and trying to get you to cross the finish line with this amazing product. Thank you for participating. Okay, let's move to the grand prize number 3. This is gonna be presented by NTAP for 5K and Jeshri.
Yes, so this is, I'd mentioned earlier in the panel that I thought the project split down largely to either being apps to help patients and their providers connect, like we've heard about, some very exciting apps, or innovative ways to reuse existing data. And this project was felt by the judges to be a really thoughtful approach to ensuring that the data that exists is analyzed in a very rigorous way so that we have the highest likelihood of identifying both targets and maybe even specific drugs that are likely to work for patients. This project was specifically focused on plexiform neurofibromas in people with NF1. That's the second most common tumor that happens in people with NF1 and this is the indication for which Koselugo was developed. And while Koselugo was an absolutely overwhelming, life-changing approval, we have much more need for plexiform neurofibromas. And this application has the promise of potentially delivering us more targets, more pathways to target, and more drugs. So I'd like to congratulate the gene network-based drug discovery and plexiform neurofibroma team and for their application using the co-expression network modules across both cell models and tissue models in the preclinical setting to find semantic similarities that would identify conserved markers across all of the data sets in the preclinical space, hoping to improve the accuracy of choosing drugs to move to the clinical space. Congratulations.
And I know Dao Chan was one of the participants in the panel, so you should have your mic on.
Yes, yes. Thanks, organizers. Thanks, Jeshri's comments. I'm very excited, and again, I think I think from the researcher level, I benefit from this data too. I mean, not only for the hackathon, for the patients. As a researcher, analyze this data, let me understand, you know, what I can really do in practically help the patients, you know. Before I handle the mouse model, handle some patient samples in the labs. So I just feel, oh, it's just far away. It seems like endless, you know, in front of me. But with this resource, with this events, I really think this transformed my thought. I can think, you know, oh, these drugs I can greatly and directly test them in my models or in this kind of models, and then which can be, you know, applied to the patients probably in a couple of years. That's really a game changer, I think. Again, I would like to wish the community continue to share the data, you know, contribute to the poor thought, and that's really, you know, exciting.
Thank you, Dao Chan. Thank you for your contribution. We're sure you will continue working on NF and we'll support you for everything you do. So let's move on, and we have an additional prize that we added, thank you to the generosity of our sponsors. And this is going to be presented by Children's Tumor Foundation. So Barb, I think I messed up with, you know, the scheduling of the grants and everything, but can you introduce our award winner here for grant prize number 4?
Okay, great. So this project provided an interactive program to assess a child for NF, providing treatment recommendations and references mainly designed for the general practitioner. The judges liked the intuitive UI and access to references. The app could also be used by parents and patients to show to their primary care provider. And in light of the new diagnostic criteria being published soon, the app could facilitate their dissemination in a new and more engaging way. And at the same time, if curated, the app could collect more patient-oriented information helpful to navigate common issues connected to the management of their clinical care. I would like to congratulate the NF Care app team, which also the Childers family, if you're available to say a few words. And congratulations.
Sure, thank you. This is this is great. We we talk to our doctors, we talk to our child's doctor, right, and ask him, you know, what is he seeing, what does he see a need for, and this kind of came up as one of the first things he mentioned. So, you know, we were excited to try to condense everything down and look at, you know,
it was also just reading all the research, and there's so much out there that as a parent, you know, you didn't know, and you don't know what you don't know. And so certainly having heard from many of the patient mentors and ourselves, when you go to doctors and they don't know, it can be frustrating. So we felt like this was something that really filled a need, and that we hoped would be something that other people and other families could share with their doctors, and other doctors could also just stay on top of all of the great research and so much of the new stuff that's happening. And we're just really thankful to be a part of it, and glad for this opportunity.
Yeah, thank you, Lauren and Patrick. Yes, I think this app met a lot of heads nodding, saying, you know, this is information that we need in so many different formats, because we don't know what is the right format for everybody. And, you know, you can find it on our CTF website probably, but we need to package in so many different ways that can be disseminated as fast and as possible, but also, you know, engaging people as much as possible. So thank you for creating this app. I think has a lot of potential. Thank you. Okay, and let's move on to our hypothesis testing prize. So we had an amazing partner during the hackathon, Arcturus. Arcturus is a CRO companies that does in vitro testing for big pharma, and they can actually replicate you know, testing platform for any kind of client. So they were really interested into the hackathon concept, and came on board saying that, you know, if there is an hypothesis and someone brings in like a new target or a new molecule, we would love to test that either in a lab, or we'll take it on and send us the cell lines and we will test it. So this project is one of the few projects that actually create an hypothesis for dermal neurofibromas, that we're looking at compounds that have similar characteristics that are involved in, let's say, the events that happen when a dermal neurofibromas is popping up, is actually there. So without further ado, I would like to congratulate the copper and zinc complexes as proposed metallo-allosteric therapy for cutaneous NF. And I know Lars Eriksson and Dimitri has been working since this project for a long time, I think starting in San Francisco with preliminary work. And we will be thrilled to test those hypotheses for you in a relevant model. So do we have Lars or Dimitri to say a few words?
Lars, you can talk if you just unmute yourself.
And of course, this is also—
Can you hear me now?
Yeah,
Yep.
This is also sponsored by NTAP. Sorry, Jeshua, I messed it up.
Yeah, we really appreciate the opportunity to keep looking at this idea. It seems a little outside of the box because it's just, you know, zinc and copper, but then Jeffrey Fields, one of the mentors, pointed out that that's actually a focus of Brady Lab, and then we found another lab in California that's focusing on that. So we think it has some promise. So you know, we're very excited to be able to continue looking at the idea and trying to figure out a good way to test the idea. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Lars. And sorry, the prize was supposed to be presented by NTAP and I stepped in. Sorry, Jayashree.
No problem. I'll just say, Lars, give us a call. We have lots of good ideas for how you can test that.
Okay, I really appreciate that because NTAP, last year we worked with Sharad Barma, who was at NTAP. And, you know, we know that you're really the leader in this area. So, and also, I guess we should really be talking to Kavita Sarin as well, because she's I guess the top of the field now for the CNF dermal therapeutics. So we should
I
have
wouldn't
talked
say
to her.
that, but I'm happy to talk to you about some of our assays that you could use.
Okay, so
definitely not the top of the field.
I think your characterization was correct.
Yeah. So we got to run the copper and zinc by you, Kavita. So thanks again.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you. And last but not least, we finished our prizes, but there were so many projects that were so promising and interesting. And we wanted to give an opportunity also to those that actually presented a way forward for their project to be improved, even though, I mean, it was very early stage and maybe very early prototype of just, you know, a nascent idea. So we would love to invite the NF Knowledge Explorer team and the Deep Learning for NF Tumor Segmentation team to continue their work within the NF incubator, so they will have access to the mentors, the experts, but also everything we can actually do to facilitate let's say the next milestones in their project evolution or their, you know, results. So I know, Lars, you are in this deep learning, this your second project that was selected. And I don't know if we have Daniela or someone else from the NF Knowledge Explorer maybe to share a few words. And we also have Raghavendra raising hands.
Oh, sorry, my Zoom keeps popping in and out, but oh, okay. So the yeah, we need a partner, I guess, Wenli or somebody for the tumor segmentation to define the criteria of success, because we got a certain level using a particular machine learning criteria, but we obviously need more data, more MRI scans, and we talked to them, to Gordon Harris and to Wenli Kai, and they have, you know, obviously some capability, but they manually correct. So we need to know how much manual correction they do and how much value the segmentation we did would add over that, and, you know, how we can go forward. Isaac had some more ideas on in-painting and stuff to bring that forward. So thank you again. We're very happy to proceed on that.
Thank you. Is Daniela available or?
Yes, I am available. I'm speechless, completely humbled. So our team pulled together. We came in late in the game, and I am so impressed with the NF community, with the Children's Tumor Foundation. It was already like a big honor to, you know, have a voice being heard, and we hope to continue. We would have continued anyway to try to put together data so that, you know, newly diagnosed patients, I can talk from a mother's perspective, can find answers more easily without having a PhD, as someone said before. So yeah, and I'd like to thank JP and Raghavendra, which are part of the team. And thank you. I don't know what to say. I'm too emotional.
Just keep working on your project. I think that's all you need to know. Thank you so much, Daniela, for being part of this. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Okay, so I would like to wrap up and thank you all of the project that they didn't receive a prize or an award. Your project was really appreciated. I don't think there was any single project that was considered like not worth the submission. They were really, really nice, and the judging and selection was really, really hard. And we had to do a lot of compromising because the scoring and the comments were really for all projects that we were really impressed. So thank you to all teams, and please reach out to me. What we're gonna do in the next few days and the next steps is that I want just to remind that all teams that are accepting a cash prize will commit to a complete detailed write-up of their project, methods and results. This is part of, I just want to remind you, this is part of the requirements to receive, and it's in our terms and conditions. And we are really looking forward because we want to know every single details of your project. So you can do it either as a wiki page or a preprint article. On our data portal, we can work with the SAGE team to set up a page. And then the good thing is that you will get a DOI. You can mention this work also for your curriculum and for your career. So it's a big achievement that you won this. All teams, anyway, will receive feedback from the judges. Today, we just, gave some preliminary statements of why we selected some projects, but every team will in the next few days, will receive the complete feedback from judges so that you can read and understand where this is taking with comments, but also reflection on the project. And we'll reach out to the team leaders. Is also important via email to organize prize distribution. So stay on the watch out for an email from Barb to each of the team leaders so that we can organize all the paperwork for getting the prize to you. What next? Again, part 2. The winning and incubated team will have access to experts. So they will be part of our NF incubator for 1 year. We'll provide that expertise, we'll provide that support so that you can succeed in what was your plan. And then the opportunity there is that even though you won a prize today and you have some resources to keep going, the opportunity is to see if you make significant advancements in 6 months or 12 months. We'll check in with you during those 2 time points. And if successful, those teams, we want to support that team again, because we want to make sure that you have all the resources that you need to be successful and create something tangible. So the winning teams and incubated teams also will be invited to one of the 2021 RESI conference. Thank you to Dennis that moderated this amazing panel. And the opportunity there is really to pitch your ideas to investors. If you think you created an app that can be used for NF, but also for rare disease, then this is the right audience that you want for bringing your project to a startup level, or creating and spin out the company. And there is no one else more skilled in this art of getting investors around than Dennis Ford. So thank you, Dennis. And this draws us to the last slide. Thank you again so much. I really appreciated this intense 6 weeks and more of preparation. And I'm sure we definitely created the foundations for a very nice event that we'll see growing in the next few years. So I hope I'll see you all at our 2021 Hack for NF next year. Hopefully in a COVID-free world, but definitely connected globally, because something we learned, we're not gonna throw it away. So thank you all.